As the games industry keeps changing, I keep paying attention to these big milestones that tell us where we are heading next. And now we just had another one with Hollow Knight Silksong. And the real question here is how an indie team like Team Cherry got here, and what does that tell us about what really matters in games development. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, welcome to another video, and I hope you're doing well. So as you guys know, the industry has been changing a lot. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot because for the last 3 years, it's been a constant change. And these videos of the state of the games industry, go and check out the previous videos if you haven't so far, have been my attempt to kind of make sense of all these changes that have been happening. Now, we just had a massive milestone with Hollow Knight Silksong, which is a brilliant game made by Team Cherry. Now this is, I think, an amazing case study for us to basically see where things are headed, because there is 2 aspects to this. 3 maybe, which is basically the gamers, and then we have the developers, and then we have the expectations of the game for monetary reasons, financial reasons. So in this first section, I'm going to talk a little bit about the problems that indie developers face from a perspective of an indie developer myself, working with my own studio Proxima on a game called Warship Jolly Roger. So the problem that we have, I think, a lot of the time nowadays is that because the industry, the games industry, is in such a disarray, it feels like there's a lot of advice out there. So some of the advice that I've heard as I went to the GDCs of the world and the Gamescoms of the world, and I was pitching my game to get finance advice, to get more money, is always about building and maintaining a fan base. So that was number 1, because what happens is that if you build enough wish lists, if you have enough of a Discord community to actually talk about your game, if you have enough buzz online on Twitter or perhaps via a post that you did somewhere, that kind of builds that fan base that basically are going to be looking towards the release of your game. So that becomes a barrier, and most developers end up using about 50% of their time developing the game and the other 50 doing some of these other things that I'm going to mention. Now, the second problem is exactly that, is delivering constant updates, because if you actually have a game being built right now, you need to build some type of consistency, because social media is telling you that consistency and posting often in updates is a way to build your subscriber base and your followers. So making sure that those updates are constant, it's important. And then there is Steam. Now, Steam is a huge part of this indie development success and ascension that is happening right now, because if you have Steam and you have 100,000 subscribers, or 100,000 wishlists, I should say, then you know that most likely most of those people will gonna get a ping that your game is available, and let's say 50% or 30% or 20% of those people buy your game, let's say 10,000 people, then it means that you actually kind of made some money that can go towards your next game or build the momentum of the release. And the last one is definitely the one that consumes the most time, which is showcasing yourself and the game in big conferences. So the 2 biggest ones are going to be GDC and Gamescom. And the idea when you go to these conferences is very much to give an update, number 1, to publishers or investors or interested parties that you have in your game. What has happened since we last talked, how much development has been, what has changed since last time, and much more. And then the second thing is to basically showcase your game to either new parties, new people, new publishers, maybe media, to build some buzz. And then there's a small part of when it comes to recruitment. You can find a lot of developers and other people that can help you with your game if they are hype about a trailer that you release, perhaps, right? And if you're passionate about games like me, but not so passionate about social media and going to events and talking to people and all that stuff, then it can become detrimental and can be to the point that you no longer want to do this, because game development is just not game development. It has all this other stuff attached to it as well. So knowing all this about indie game development, let's talk about the turning point and some of the things that Team Cherry did that I think are super interesting, and I think it kind of landmarks a little bit of the path of where we're going next. Okay, so just to get out of the way, I think that what Team Cherry has done so well with Silksong in Hollow Knight, I think that they didn't really follow every piece of advice that this people in general have been giving based on previous ways of working in the industry. I have to add a caveat here before I read more that they had Hollow Knight already out. So obviously they have like a bunch of money there that they can use in order to kind of sustain themselves until the next one. But I think the idea of what they put their effort in is what I'm trying to deliver here when it comes to game making. So let's look a little bit at their achievements and some of the things that they have done. So the game came out not long ago. Today is the 14th of September and the game came out on the 4th of September. So just last week. And just, in the first 3 days of release, the game received critical acclaim, has been played by 5 million players at this point. Now, something to mention here that is super important is that the team decided to kind of like limit the communication about the game's progress during development, explaining that they wanted to focus their energy on the development process itself and that they wanted to avoid revealing too many of Silksong's secrets before release. They wanted to continue to develop the game, but they actually had to force themselves to stop in order to have a release, so meaning that they could actually develop this for more than 7 years if they wanted to, and then add extra content in post-release. So I think that's really bold, and it kind of showcases that they really believe in what they were doing, and they really believe in the product they were building, but most importantly that they didn't want any distractions for their game while developing the game. So I feel like they took a little bit of a breather and decided to put all of their passion into the game instead of doing all this other fluff stuff. Now, another bold move that they had as well is that they basically announced the game in Gamescom this year, and then 2 weeks later they had a release date. And it was such a big event and it was so well received that a lot of games actually moved their dates of release because of Silksong. And I was keeping a close eye on this because I was fascinated by this. And some games didn't move it, and I have a feeling that because they were more on the AAA scope, they maybe felt that this was not a big threat to them, which is something that the AAA industry feels a lot of the time, or felt a lot of the time, with indie developers. It's like, cool, it's cute, but it's not at our scope. And some of the games will be Hell Is Us, Demon Ex Machina, Chronos. And I feel now, and please drop a comment below, let me know if you agree with this, that Silksong is way bigger in the eyes of gamers in the gaming community than any of these games, and also had a much better review than any of these games, which I think it tells us a lot about like the amount of investment that some publishers and investors are doing right now, and then like what the indie community is doing and some of the disconnect that exists between the two sides. Now, the result of all this is that the Steam store, the Nintendo eShop, they crashed because the game was so wanted and they wanted to buy the game so much that basically they had 100,000 concurrent players, peaking at 500,000 during the first day. It was too many people playing this one game. And then there was also the price, because there is a lot of talk, as you guys know, about how expensive games are getting, right? And that some people believe the games haven't really been increased in price for the last few years, so therefore they need to. Some people believe that the price that it is right now at $50, $60, $70 is way too expensive, so putting it higher doesn't make sense. And yet they actually only charged about $20 for their game, which caused people to be outraged and asking for a higher price, which to me, it tells me that players are willing to pay more if they think the value of the game is there when it comes to the quality and the amount of effort that was put into a game. And if they see it from a developer, because obviously they have been seeing what Team Cherry is doing, then they don't mind paying more. I think this is what the rise of Steam has shown more than anything, is that if you are behind a certain game or a certain studio, you want to support it, you want to be there for them, you want to champion them, and you want to champion them with money, because you actually know that how hard things are. And I do think that players are getting more and more aware of how difficult it is to make these games, right? So if you actually put so much work, so much effort, and it's been 7 years for 3 guys putting a lot of sweat, blood, and tears, then $20 doesn't seem like much, and you should charge more. So I understand them. Now, given all this, let's talk about the solution or the takeaway that I have in regards to this big milestone that we just had when it comes to where we're heading as a games industry. So the biggest takeaway for me is very much that a product speaks louder than any marketing plan or any viral tweet. Because if you focus on the quality of the game, if you put a lot of passion into the game, it will show in the end product. And players will support you, they'll give you their money, they'll give you the time that you need, and it wouldn't matter after the game comes out that it has taken 7 years, because it's going to be a game, a really good game, forever. So when it comes to games like Hollow Knight, Silksong, or even early in the year we had Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, what's clear here is very much that you don't need to tick every single checkbox that I mentioned before when it comes to what people advise you to do, because this is how the industry works and this is what other studios have done. I think it's very much about what is the DNA of your studio and what kind of things do you want to achieve and what kind of game are you making for the player base that you intend to deliver to. Because if you can answer those questions, I think then keeping true to yourself and actually making a game that delivers to those kind of players and having feedback and then starting to build some type of traction is essential. Because having a lot of buzz and having a massive marketing campaign for a game that is mediocre or is bad, we all know where that leads. And this is why people are so mad with the AAA industry nowadays, because it feels like every game that comes out is very much that. It's a lot of buzz, a lot of hype, marketing. The game comes out and it's like, it's alright, right? So on the flip side, you have Hollow Knight Silksong, which is no noise for 7 years. And all of a sudden the game comes out in 2 weeks and then drops and then delivers. And it's incredible to see the contrast between the two. And I think it's between these two contrasting things that we have from the AAA and the indies that we're going to find a middle ground somewhere there, right? Because I don't think that things are ever black and white. I do think that there's a gray middle ground there. Marketing is important, promoting your game is important, having a community is important, but ultimately it's always about the game. And I think that a lot of people forgot that over the years, and I think that Team Cherry knew exactly what they were doing, and they knew that the game is ultimately the most important thing, like we used to do 15 to 20 years ago, where we used to focus on the game when the industry was not so lucrative, and we used to kind of focus on making just an amazing game that was better than the last one. So this is all I had for you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, drop a comment down below and let me know what you think. And if you're playing Hollow Knight, let me know as well. And until the next video, stay well, stay safe. Peace. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, go ahead and hit the like button. If you super enjoyed it, leave a super thanks. It's like leaving a little tip and it directly supports the channel. If you haven't already, subscribe and turn on post notifications so you can continue to see my videos and get your weekly dose of better.